This time it is different. The winds of change are blowing, and they are not necessarily blowing in the way of Web3. Often we've done these Web3 stories where we basically see, there's perhaps a bit of greed, maybe some griftery shit going on with, your NFTs and all of that. Today, though, we have a very interesting example of the broad market shifting. And to get some color in that, we can jump to Lars, who is the CEO of the Embracer Group, who basically own everything at this stage, including The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes.
He said, a bit back to basics, I would say. Less talk about blockchain and NFTs, thank God. Prefer to talk about real games and experiences. That's what he said when he was talking about game industry trends. So today we have got an MMO that, yes, did somewhat blow it with the public perception, but more importantly, those shifting industry trends have impacted them severely.
And it's not often we get to say, here's a game industry trend and not just be full doomer about it. This is a case of what everyone thought would come to pass. Everyone reasonably thought would come to pass. Everyone who looked at this sort of waters and went, well, we've seen this before. We know how this ends with crypto and Web3 and all this effective pyramid scheme nonsense. We know where it ends. And thankfully it took a couple of years to get there, but it is getting there finally. It just, unfortunately, Untamed Isles is probably, you could argue about where it came from, but still one of hopefully the final casualties of all of this bullshit.
So here's the deal, right? In September 2021, they kickstarted 840,000 New Zealand dollars, which was 4 times what they wanted. Now, it's basically a game where it's like MMO style. You've got teams that you go out and catch Pokemon. Basically, right? It's like Pokemon stuff, but there's also a breeding system. You can explore the whole area, battle AI, battle real players. Basically, it's a Pokemon MMO. It's got multiplayer experiences. They were very committed to actually allowing for the very top end of gameplay as well. They were going to have the likes of player housing, where you could share player housing, earn some passive income in the game by decking out your place. It had then as well a division-style wild area where you could get really rare stuff, but if you lose a battle, there's actually a risk of losing that stuff. And they even were planning on a tie-in novel. So they were really going to just try to make this big Pokemon-like MMO with their own spin on things. Now, all of this would be tracked by the Scroll. What is the Scroll? It's a unique ledger of all recorded monsters and items, the creation of those things, and ownership history, right? So it's like if you get one of these tames, one of the neat things, I suppose, as a player, it doesn't literally need to be done on a blockchain to be able to do this, but user-facing, the neat thing is you could see the full history of that item, right? You could see its journey, how it finally made its way to you. So if you're thinking that this is basically you looking at, say, blocks of information that are organized perhaps in some form of chain, then you would absolutely be right, because we're really excited to be driving our new play-to-earn model. The Untamed Isles has partnered with Dire Wolf to allow the use of website blockchain marketplace. The Untamed Isles focuses on the policy of game first, crypto second, and does not require blockchain integration to be played by the user. However, most of the items and all of the monsters can be tokenized and sold, bought, and traded on the marketplace in addition to the in-game auction house, allowing players to earn while they play. Woo! Because, virtual work, right? If you're going to kill boars in World of Warcraft, why not get tokenized WoW gold that you could sell?
Wonderful.
Uh-oh.
I love finishing work and going home to do some more work. Obviously, that's it's just sad that this is you look at where all the money came from and you can tell this is definitely good kind of pushing from the people funding it and all that stuff. Where it's just yeah. Hey, do you want to make loads of money for nothing? Because everything else about it, and again, even in terms of how far this got along, because this was supposed to release soon, they just couldn't get it over the line. It's this was done more or less, and then they kind of went, oh shit, crypto time, whoopee. Absolutely wonderful.
It's a pretty damn ambitious thing from this studio. This is actually the first game that they've done. And to what you were saying there, there could be that crypto, sort of in deep from the start. Another way that could work, though, is founders need to pay for team. Where do we get money in the current investing landscape? Yeah. Evidently not going with a publisher. and a lot of things were happening at a time where crypto was just popping, right? So they got their funding. Now, from that point, they were really pretty good of, just updating stuff, keeping their community with, up to date with everything. They even had a Steam page, which we thought was a little bit strange because, of course, Steam does have an official policy of no stuff that is connected to blockchain technology, right? Very much unlike Epic. Valve went out and said, basically, no, we don't want this on our store. So, a bit weird. But anyway, on August 2nd, they announced the release date for their game. October the 6th would see the release, and because of that, pre-orders opened up. Now, you're probably watching us thinking, hang on a second, it's like the 23rd, 24th, whatever, of August. This is all like 20 days ago. So, if they were ready to announce the game would be coming out in October, how could it possibly have went so bad in the space of 3 weeks? Yeah, I know, right? And that is where things got very awkward, because just 9 days after announcing this, they actually said that they're putting the project on hiatus. Here it is. Untamed Isle goes into hiatus. We have paused development and put the project on hold. Now, they listed some reasons. The economic landscape for crypto has changed since they started development, and they're not confident in the market. Yep, if you look at all the major tokens, they be going down. A lot of confidence has been rattled in that space, basically. As well as some pretty large dramas with a few, I believe it's like a few of the stable coins. There's just been quite a lot of crypto dramas in addition to the general, prices decreasing. So what's happened is they've ran out of financial resources. They started with a team of 70 people 2 years ago.
Jesus.
That's a hell of a lot.
Team.
Massive team, a lot of money. They say they expanded their plans too rapidly off the back of Kickstarter. Kickstarter is often seen as market validation, and if you ever wondered why some Kickstarter projects end up getting a publisher, it's because the Kickstarter stuff is rarely the full budget for a game. It's more that if you have a successful Kickstarter and you've got a good enough budget, you'll probably be able to make 40-50% of the game, and you'll be able to say to publishers, hey, look, we have market validated this game. Look at Kickstarter. And a lot of publishers who are looking to get less risk, they will do that, because people may not know this, but it's extremely rare for a game to be, published from like prototype through to completion.
Yeah, I mean, it's the clue is literally in the name. It's called Kickstarter. It's not called, Project Finisher. Called Kickstarter, and that's like a kind of thing where so many of the projects I backed had that same idea, because obviously I actually went through it recently thinking about this and talking about it with people in the office, going, oh yeah, how many of my Kickstarter projects that I backed for like games back in the day in 2011, 2012 when it was popular, how many of those came to fruition? And it's like, I think out of 8, I think 6 did. 2 are completely gone. 1, the refund's still available, but then they needed to send me an email and it didn't work, so the automated system must be down. So that goes to show how good that was. We also worked out it was so long ago that my $10 then would have been worth about $15 now. something crazy like that. But it's Kickstarter. Without a publisher, it goes kind of doesn't finish. You need that to finish it, and that's fundamentally what went wrong here. They were like, "There's Kickstarter, so there's the scope creep, right? Obviously, you're going to get scope creep because you think, oh, I have 800,000 New Zealand dollars. That's a lot of money." It's really not when you have 70 team members.
No, not at all.
It's actually
tiny
nothing.
Quantity of money.
Yeah, so then they found crypto investors, and that's what went wrong. The crypto investors were like, hey, we'd love to invest in your game. We have all the money in the world. Now the game's close to done. Hey, see all the money we said we had that we will invest in your game? It's all evaporated. Yeah. It's all gone. It wasn't actually money. It was all a promise of money, and it's gone forever. Sorry. You can't finish your game. Your 70 team members will have no actual money. And you think, oh, well, it's only like another 7 or 8 weeks. Surely they could push through. And then you go, well, what if you had your money cut for 8 weeks?
Well, Matt, surely the pre-orders that they opened up
that's right.
will have been enough to see them through. And we'll get to that. So
isn't that the whole thing about pre-orders, right? The idea is, hey, this game isn't done yet, but we want you to buy it, please. Thank you. And then you just get all your money early. Right?
Yeah, apparently.
Should have worked.
So they say here that, as well, they leaned too heavily in their exposure to the crypto market, so they were in a pretty good position to be impacted by any downturn. But they said they're confident, though, that they will be able to release the game at some state, saying that they've got a great game design that could stand on its own 2 feet. Now, quite obviously, not a lot of happy backers in a situation like this. And in response to that, Joshua Grant, the CEO, decided to hold a live stream with the community, which got a few more of their points. To go over some of those, he basically said that they've been personally funding the company to keep it afloat. None of them are taking a salary. They said that none of their development funds were actually spent on crypto assets from that Kickstarter. And they said that really the reason for this hiatus is something that's significantly more straightforward. Because we've actually seen instances of, almost theft and stuff like that in some of this space.
Yeah.
And real mega gross mismanagement. But in this case, they basically said their investors pulled out.
Yep.
Yeah, funding in that field, which they were hoping for, vanished. They essentially, they bet the house, right?
Yeah.
They bet the whole thing on these investors providing enough financial runway to actually get the game out. So he said that they had several investors pull out because of concerns about the economic market along with the crypto market. If they had not pulled out, then they were pushing to make the early access date. And that means that in terms of their cash position, they were running like a restaurant. You know the way some restaurants, they only really have like 3 or 4 weeks of cash. I remember seeing some numbers for it was like the catering industry in America that were like staggering and explain how exposed, to blips they are. And it seems like they had a cash position that was like that. So they announced pre-orders August 2nd. August 11th is when things shut down. So it's an extremely short period of time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It must be frustrating enough for like everyone involved to go, yeah, hey, we've announced this, but then all it takes, like especially in this situation, all it literally takes is one message to come through going, hey, sorry, we don't have the money, we have to pull out. Obviously, it implies that like they hadn't finished signing contracts for the money, or maybe even the funders had to default on them or something. But all the point, like that's it. If you've got all of that money there and then one day it goes away, what can you do?
Yeah. So there's this side, right? One of the potential sources of money is the crypto investors. The other source of money, of course, is the pre-orders. And unfortunately, the whole crypto side also impacted pre-orders. They said it was proving hard to get pre-order traction given the negative sentiment associated with Web3 integrated games. They say, despite Untamed Isles being primarily a full MMORPG game, with Web3 Marketplace only an ancillary future integration in the background for those players who do want to trade things outside. Which is ultimately, it's like, well, we know why that's there. We know that that's going to impact the overall market because it's an MMO. There's no way that it's not going to. And he says this caused us to take a critical look at launching the game in the current market, and as a consequence, it was not possible to continue funding. So basically now the founders are trying to work out how they can salvage their situation. Something that probably also didn't help with any of this pre-order traction, and we do have the pre-order number for you. We'll get it soon. It's neither of us believed it initially.
No.
The press kind of turning against them too. So Grant on the Twitch stream argued that influencers played a bit of a role in the negative perception. He pointed specifically towards Styx of MMO Byte, who basically did a video about the game, wasn't fully aware of the crypto situation at that time.
Yeah. Then
the viewers updated him, and then he released a video saying, I was wrong, an update on Untamed Isles and crypto. Now, the gaming press, of course they wouldn't have picked up in his first video because that's just a normal YouTube video, but the update video, now that is news. So the press picked up on that, and that meant that overall, just negative sentiment was flying around the place. Another thing that, didn't necessarily help is Wolfie Glick, who is a former Pokemon World Championship winner who they brought on board to help with the combat system. Which, hey, pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty sweet deal. But later on, though, he did say originally the game intended to implement NFTs. But after I spoke to the team and some external factors, they decided to move away from it. There are no crypto or NFT features implemented in the game itself. The only remnant is an optional external marketplace. And that was a few days, 3 days, I believe, after the pre-orders and all of that stuff was announced. So this is basically saying that, yeah, but look at what they wanted to do. They had to be stopped from doing this because, of course, if you think about all of this stuff, Axie Infinity is going to appear in your mind. Axie Infinity was able to garner, I mean, it was over 100 million in investment, right? It was mind-boggling amounts of money that Axie Infinity was able to get. And there's some aspects of Axie Infinity that I think could very easily map onto this game with its monsters that have the breeding system and all of that. So this then made people think that, like, this is not a particularly honest situation. Made people think, oh, their intent was to really go full on this. And ultimately what that meant is that when the pre-order started, the final nail was shoved into that coffin because there were 50 pre-sales. 50. That's it.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, if you're selling your game at like $60 a pop, and I'm not sure what this was selling for, that's $3,000. That's nothing. That's not going to pay a staff member for any amount of time whatsoever. That is utterly useless. Like, that is brutal. That is brutal.
Yeah.
50. But then there's Kickstarter, right? Everyone who's interested has already pre-ordered. Isn't that the fun part of the whole thing? Like,
it can be the danger of those things.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with. I don't want to say in case I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure one of like the indie creates projects was kind of been looked about a little like that. Maybe was it Mighty Number 9 or Bloodstain? Something was interesting about it. No, what am I talking about? Bloodstain wasn't that. Anyway, there's definitely something going on with like a couple of projects going, hey, we have to monetize this before release again later on down the line.
Yeah, there's a few ways that it can go.
Yeah.
You need to build your snowball. That's the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And you need to work out how to roll it down the hill. And to roll it down the hill, you need some traction. If you don't get the traction, then you kind of just can't, you've already got the people who would be interested in your game. Now, of course, you're not getting refunds. I mean, if you think about the reasoning here, like, they literally don't have the money. Of course, this is something that everybody does agree to whenever you do a Kickstarter, right? Understand rewards or reimbursements aren't guaranteed by either Kickstarter or the creator. Backing means supporting a creative project regardless of outcome. Now, there is a very unfortunate dimension to this. They did say, and in the case Untamed Isles doesn't launch, we'll provide full refunds to all our backers. Now, what this shows basically, because sometimes, a Kickstarter is not really done because the money's needed. It's done to validate it in the market. Yeah. So it's like, if the Kickstarter fails, then okay, we didn't succeed, and we have validated that this idea may not be worth proceeding with. If the Kickstarter does do well, then you validated the idea. So a statement like this can show you that they are significantly more leaning on larger amounts of investor money, because their idea here is that, obviously if it doesn't launch, then the Kickstarter money will be gone, so they will have expected to have plenty of external money anyway. Mm-hmm. Either that, or this was just a sort of irresponsible statement.
Just basically an egotistical kind of chess beating move. It's like, oh yeah, we're fine. Doesn't matter if this doesn't work. You're at no risk. You'll be okay. Because that's obviously then people go, oh, if I get a refund anyway, it doesn't matter. If I put $20, $30 down, I'll get it back. Sweet, what's the risk? My money goes away. I lose a percentage to inflation because I give them $30 now and get it back in 6 months. Whatever, this is literally no risk. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Just when you run out of money, you don't have money left. It was very, very short-sighted to say that.
Yeah.
Very.
Some people are getting refunds, though. It's those who purchase fat loot tokens, which was, the crypto token, and the people who purchase the pre-sales of the game. All 50 of them. And that essentially is the situation, because here's the deal. It ain't cancelled.
No.
That's another thing that they can say with the whole refund policy side. They haven't cancelled the project. It's just on hiatus. Which,
looking at it, it's weird, because I kind of believe it for a decent reason, because obviously you look into obviously there were some rumblings of NFT stuff. Obviously they have the external marketplace, which you look at Diablo, you look at World of Warcraft WoW token, you look at like any game that says, oh yeah, by the way, you can buy stuff. You're like, you've just completely changed the entire nature of your whole video game. Good job, morons. But there's definitely like most of what they tried to do seems to be like, this doesn't seem like a grift, because if it was ready to launch in early access, beta feedback is
Yeah.
all positive and
There's
impressive. It seems like this is like a really unfortunate story of like they made a couple slightly wrong moves that they could fundamentally have walked back.
Yeah.
But I think there may have been a case of the monkey's paw, because you're talking to a crypto investor, and especially if you're making an MMO and you've got 70 team members, you can't go to like Devolver or like Focus Home or like some like sort of smaller enough publisher and say, hello, we're in the middle of making an MMO. Would you like to help us get it over the line? That's only however many million. And the publisher will go, do you know how many fucking games we could publish for a couple mil? Are you mental? That's not our MO. That's the risk. The risk profile there is way too big. No, that's why publishers don't work. That's how 38 Studios and Kingdom of Amalur had that massive nightmare. Whereas like, yeah, here's all of someone who's very rich, all of their money, and also the government got involved, and it still kind of shot the bed and went to hell. But that's the thing where like it was the monkey's paw of, we need big money. Who's got big money in games? Crypto. You go to crypto investors, what are they going to say? Does your game have any crypto in it? And you go, well, if you're going to give us a couple mil, we could work a wee bit in. And then that's where like the monkey's paw curls and goes, oh no, sorry, you have now just irreversibly corrupted your game's entire design by kind of having the ambition to go for that much money in the first place.
That's the thing.
And then that falls apart.
I don't think, as you said, I don't think it's a grift.
Yeah.
Now, greed's a very interesting thing, right?
Sure is.
Because in this case, you can see the dollar signs, and for some people that light up greed. For others, it could light up ambition. As an example, let's just say you're in this situation, you're like, okay, if I take the monkey's paw, I get enough money to make the Pokemon MMO of my dreams. I am happy to make that deal. This money seems like it's solid. We will just go and do the game. I think that's probably more along the lines of what happened.
Yeah.
Especially if what they are saying about putting their, their actual personal finances into the project. Especially if that is also, is also true.
It could be bluster, but
could be bluster. Yeah. But I think it's the monkey's paw. It's the deal with the devil, right?
Yeah.
There's a timeline where this worked out, but the timeline that we're in is one where it turns out that a lot of that was a short-term greed-based speculative bubble that popped.
Yeah.
And in that popping, a lot of people who relied on investor confidence in the space, they got hurt.
Yeah, because I'll paint a picture of what I think could, and this is definitely like best case scenario, but the NFT marketplace, or the marketplace for the external stuff was all external to the game. It wasn't part of the game. So if we are operating under the assumption that they did this, and the crypto investors were like the reason the crypto stuff was kind of pushed in, because they wanted return on their investment, which requires, they want crypto to be bigger. They're the people making, like, ultimately the people with money are the ones making the calls at the end of the day. But say if this did release in early access and it was a great game, and all of like the consulting they did with Wolfie was like really actually like solid, all the mechanics were great, and it was just, hey, we've made a Pokemon MMO. We wished on the monkey's paw, we did have that finger curl, but they could kind of fix that after the fact if the game got really successful. Because if they get a whole load of money, then they get to go, people love this, but they don't like the external marketplace. We see the external marketplace as being hurtful and harmful to the game overall. We see these player patterns of people are playing to earn. We see loads of bots involved. It's our game. Depends on how they sign the deal with the crypto investors and stuff. It was if there's some sort of binding thing, but there was probably a universe where this released, everyone went, this is great. They played earns a bit shit, and they went, well, we designed it this way. We can get rid of that.
Think about Lost Ark.
Turn off that external marketplace, and then off they go. And then Lost Ark's another good example of like that being, is it technically a full pay to skip nightmare hellscape where you could also play to earn and sell your stuff? Yes. But does that seem to impact the vast majority of players who are playing it for fun because it is a good game with all that good content and stuff? No. It does somewhere along the line, and it's probably hurting a little bit, but it's also kind of like, that's the point where that wasn't a monkey's paw. That was just kind of like, well, maybe it's a monkey's paw, but the finger didn't curl the whole way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing where it's definitely been worth it. So it's like basically a Pokemon MMO Lost Ark could have ultimately been the outcome if not for this crypto bubble bursting. And it's kind of sad to see that in the individual case, but it does go to show the almost like the danger of what the kind of deals you have to do to get in bed with the people with the money. the kind of the expectations that'll come out of that, and now the fact that this may just be like almost like the head of the snake is gone now because of this. If they had to pull out of a Pokemon MMO that was about to release, it must be really bad, which means you'll look at crypto investment across the industry, that's going to drop.
Yeah.
And then that's going to mean the next time Square Enix CEO is talking to people, he's not as likely to say, oh yeah, we love the blockchain, we're going to go full in on NFTs, just not with any of our major franchises because we know that'll be a bad idea. And you know, like we brought at the top of the video, like Lars Winger for saying, let's talk about blockchains and NFTs. Thank God.
And compared to most of the people that we talk about, like Lars is so involved in like investing, M&A, all that stuff.
Big money man, yeah.
Yeah, because Embracer's thing has been I don't know actually exactly how, but getting money, acquiring things.
Yeah. I mean,
And
then
if he's saying then that the game industry trends are changing, I suppose for those of us who don't like those trends, which apparently includes him, as he puts it, real games and experiences, well, that's a good enough thing. And I think the sad thing here is, if you think about, there was another Pokemon-like MMO-ish game came out like 2 years ago. I've completely spaced on its name.
There's so many nowadays. There's like Nexamon, which is like a normal game, not MMO, but like...
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this game could have been just fine, could have been really good, if it just came out without this stuff. But instead, they try to, go big and go home. They bet the whole house on it.
Yeah.
It didn't pan out. So I think let this be a lesson about risk, especially when you are playing with your community's money. I mean, straight up, there's a reason why we did not kickstart our first game and self-publish it. It's because I couldn't say I know with a high... It's like it's the first major project.
Yeah.
It would be insane for me to ask for people's money when it's the first project.
Yeah, that's why traditionally you make things and then sell it, because you've made it. And
Yeah.
then you go, I've made it, I know what it's worth now.
Like, I'm totally not adverse to, like, fan funding for future projects or something like that. But that would only be if Pale comes out, is relatively good, and, it works.
Yeah, we could... Yes, we now know we could do that process again and finish it without, whatever else being involved. That could actually happen. And that's the thing of, like, that's where all the risk comes in of, like, for a studio. It doesn't matter how experienced or how good they are. Shit's gonna go wrong. That's why I think Fig was a very interesting idea. It seems to have worked out largely okay, and I think Psychonaut 2 is really good, but not quite sure. But the whole thing is business hard. Business difficult, very hard.
Yeah,
Game's expensive.
Business hard, and goddamn, try not to run a situation where your runway is like that, where you so quickly can have 70 people's job. I mean, we don't exactly know. Maybe the studio does have runway, but they have to redeploy their staff onto other projects in order to keep the money going.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows exactly what it is until maybe somebody speaks out. But yeah, I suppose let this be a cautionary tale, and I suppose for plenty of you watching, maybe some good news about game industry trends.
Yeah, pop that champagne. Pop that champagne, because we have one big example of crypto investors going, nope, our money's gone. We can't ruin your video game experience by asking people to put crypto in it.
Yeah.
Great.
Don't play with a monkey's paw.
Yep.
And with that said, see you next time.